have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby.
Who is that?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm excited to talk to Shona Hendley, a journalist, mum, and provocateur, somebody who writes a whole lot of articles regularly for the Fairfax Press, for the ABC, and whoever else will take her writing, talking about parenting observations. I'm going to start today's interview with Shona by sharing a story. Shona, I'm going to be a little bit indulgent. We're going to make this about me as much as you for just a sec.
Go for it.
Some years ago, one of my kids, my eldest daughter, probably 10 years ago now, was playing netball. She was in the middle of this very high-stakes game. I mean, this game mattered a great deal. I was there. I was cheering for her. And what I noticed, Shona, was that the referee, with her two eyes, could not see what was going on nearly as well as I could with my one eye, if you know what I mean. Because supporters are so often one-eyed, you know where I'm going there. And I found myself, bear in mind, when you're watching 14-year-old girls play netball, the people who are running up and down beside the court, the referees, are generally, I don't know, aged somewhere between 14 and 17. They're usually just pretty young kids themselves. And I heard myself saying, "Come on, ref," or "Are you serious? Are you going to," like, I started giving some coaching tips to the referees on how they might do a better job. And I don't know, maybe halfway through the game, I heard myself and I realized what I was doing. Maybe it was the fact that a couple of people looked at me because I was perhaps getting a little bit too vocal. And fortunately for me, I guess, I held it together. I pulled it back and I just started cheering for my daughter and for the other team when they did something well as well, because frankly, they were playing very, very well. Your article just a couple of weeks ago in the Fairfax Press, Sydney Morning Herald and The Age was all about sports parents. And at this time of year, as seasons are ending and seasons are beginning and parents are starting to get ready for spring and summer sports rather than the winter sports, I just thought it might be interesting to talk to you about your article and about whether or not parents are like me or worse, or I don't know, whatever your observations are. I loved your article, and that's why I wanted to get you on the Happy Families podcast. Tell me what you've seen as you've observed parents on the sidelines of sporting fields.
Well, firstly, I totally agree with you. You can get so into it and then you don't realize what you're doing. I think that's like completely natural, and I think I've also been there. So,
in fact, your voice sounds a little hoarse because you've been cheering.
That's right. That's what it is. Yeah, it's not being in Victoria where every cold is going around. No, it's all right. But yeah, it's so easy to do it, and I think it's so natural as a parent. So, you know, I think everyone's been there. But my article was sort of focusing on the positives more than the negatives, which is unusual for me as a critic of all people. But yeah, it was just looking at the fact that sports parents get quite a bad rap. So, you know, you hear a lot about the things parents can do wrong, like a soccer mum, like the Karen of the parents that's out there and knows best to the referee, to the coach, to other kids, their kid, like, you know, they've, you know, all their dreams that were never fulfilled are being pushed on to everybody else. But my article is sort of just looking at how it's not really the case for the majority, I think, out there, and that really sports parents are pretty good and they're pretty dedicated as well.
So I want to talk about those good, dedicated parents shortly, but we can't have a conversation like this without talking about the elephant in the room, the fact that there are so many parents who do those things that you've just described.
Yeah.
As an observer rather than a psychologist, as somebody who is paid to take note of what's going on, what do you think is going on in terms of this whole pushing things on to the kids? Where do you think that comes from? What have you observed? Maybe even with your own kids, maybe you've experienced it.
Yeah, I think really you just want your child to do the best. And I think most of the time it comes from a good place. You know, maybe when you were younger, you could have tried harder in a particular element and you have that regret. So you don't want your child to go, you know, the same way. But other times, I think maybe there's people that are definitely super competitive, and that also comes through, infiltrates into their children as well.
That's right. I'm competitive, so my kid better damn well be.
Yeah, that's right.
So I want to be a little bit provocative here and challenge you. And in some ways, this is unfair because you're not necessarily saying these things, but I want to bounce the idea off you and get your take on it. Why do you think that so many parents say, I just want my kids to do their best? Like, why is doing your best so important on the soccer field or the cricket field or the netball field or the whatever it is that the kids are playing this weekend? Why is doing your best so important?
Well, I think for some people, maybe doing your best is winning.
Well,
It's not.
Winning matters even more sometimes than doing your best, right?
That's it. Because, if you're trying your best, but you still suck. It's like, for some parents, it's probably not going to be enough. But I think it's probably really personal. But, I think you want to see your child succeed as well. Like, you want their team to win. Like, you don't want them coming off. Like, my daughter plays netball too. Her team, yeah, they're not
They're
great.
not real good. I love that.
Anyway, they're terrible. I hope no one listens to this. But yeah,
I hate
they
to tell
do
you,
go out.
but
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that listen to this. I'm just letting you know.
Well, sorry guys, you do try, but you know what? They always have a lot of fun. Like, my daughter comes up smiling all the time. The fact that I think the other week it was 20-0.
Wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't great, but they're also 9 and under, so they're still just learning. But no one there is getting upset with their kid for their team, only having 0. And the other team that's getting 20 as well aren't super pumped and rubbing it in either. So I don't know if I've really answered your question there or not.
Well, here's my I guess the back end of my provocation, because I've thought about this a lot. I remember some years ago, one of my kids got a report card, and the report card was pretty good, but I don't really look at our kids' reports. And it's because of this daughter that I don't. But as I went through, I said, you know what, I don't really mind what grades you get. What I care about is that you're trying hard, that you're getting recognized for your effort. And we got to one of her subjects, and she got a C for effort. And so I pulled her up on it. I said, well, what's the deal with this? You're not doing your best here. Obviously, the teacher's saying you only got a C for effort. She burst into tears and she said, Daddy, I failed trying. I tried so hard, but I failed trying.
Aww.
I know, right?
Aww.
Heartbreaking. And I just thought, since then I've thought about this idea. I want my kids to fulfill their potential. I want them to be their best, do their best. And I've kind of shifted. Well, I haven't kind of. I've clearly shifted. I don't care if they do their best. I just want them to love it. I just want them to develop their competence, to develop relationships, and to come off that field or that court or whatever it is that they're doing and go, gee, I'm so glad. I can't wait for next week.
Yeah, that's it.
I want them to love it. And it seems like when we have these parents behaving badly on the sideline stories, it strikes me that they're not going to love it if we keep that up, because the constant coaching, the constant berating, the constant derogation of the referee or the coach, all that does is make the kids feel like they can't do a good enough job. They're unworthy. It's no fun when you're getting told that you're not good enough.
Yeah, actually, when I was looking into this, I remember reading some comments from kids on another story from years ago. And one person said, my favorite thing about sport was when it was time to go home. And that was based purely on that sort of behaviour. And I think it's, definitely can come from parents, but it can come from coaches and that sort of thing too. And I think for girls especially, obviously being parents of girls, both of us, it's in sports, they drop out. The rate is pretty high. And for me, I think I probably was one of them, about year 9 for myself. So I want my girls to keep going and doing it for as long as they possibly can. So enjoyment, is definitely a priority, because there's all those other skills that you build along the way with sports that have nothing to do with sports, and I think they're probably the most important ones in the end. We're
having that wrestle right now, Shona. We've watched each of our children around. You said grade 9. We're seeing it happen around grade 7, grade 8. And statistically, we see it's just a cliff. Kids participating in organised sports, especially girls, literally just stops from around about that age of 13, 14. There are body image issues. There's obviously hormonal stuff. There are periods. There's the fact that people are watching them. Sometimes the clothing that girls are expected to wear makes them very, very uncomfortable. But there's also just that feeling of competence. So one of my kids loves acrobatics. And for the last couple of years, last year or so, she's been in heaven. But at the moment, as she's getting older and her body's changing, her upper body strength, which is so important for acrobatics, it's just not there like it used to be as her body's shifting. And as her competence falls, her desire to participate is dropping. And what we're finding is those two things, the ability to get better at something and the ability to have good relationships while you're doing it, they're at the core of it. Let's talk about the good stuff that you've observed. And this is what I did love about your article. Your article was actually an ode to, I felt like it was kind of fitting. It came out a couple of weeks after the Matildas and the World Cup of soccer, and everyone's talking about how great these kids are. And it felt to me like it was an ode to the parents who are waking up at 4:30 in the morning to get their kids to squad training, or taking their kids down to dance or down to nippers at the beach or whatever it is at crazy hours, multiple days a week, the enormous sacrifice of parents. Tell me about what you observed and how you wrote it up.
Yeah, so I sort of just looked into the research to start off with, and there was a bit out there about the sheer amount of hours that parents devote to sports, just specifically. That's aside from everything else or anything else that your child does, school related or any other extracurricular activities. And I think from memory, it was something like 800 and something a year per child. So depending on how many you have and then how many sports they have, obviously it's a lot. Anyway, I'm not a maths person, but it's a lot of hours, we have a lot of things to do as parents, and, self-care is important too. But from training to competitions to camps, everything else that is involved with sports these days, social events as well. It's a lot of hours. Then that's just taking them there.
So this is what you said, and I'll quote you directly to you. Yeah. Australian parents each spend roughly 848 hours annually.
Yeah, that's it.
848 hours. That's enormous.
Yes, it's a lot.
1.08 billion hours across Australia are spent annually as parents support their kids' involvement in sports. And the other figure that struck me, especially in this time of high inflation and financial challenge, you said data from the Australian Sports Commission's AusPlay survey shows a family's average spend last year on sports for children aged 14 and under was a touch under $1,200 per child.
Yeah, that's it. And that's obviously, and you've raised that issue. I came across a few pieces as well where a lot of parents are choosing now to either pull their children out of sport or reduce the amount of sport that they're doing because of just the cost of living as well, which is it's a whole other issue. But, a lot of them have said they know how important that is for their kids and that they want them to stay in sport as well. So it's definitely something that's valued, and that's shown through time, it's shown through money, and it's shown through effort as well, like volunteering that, the majority of us do, whether we want to or not, in our kids' sport as well.
When I think of a life well lived, the characteristics or attributes of those who live great lives, so much of what children's sport offers satisfies those things. So there's the skill building and the competence. There's the relationships and the community building, the sense of being a part of something bigger than yourself. There's the purpose. There's the motivational aspects. There's being, for many, if not all of the sports, certainly for many of them, there's being outside. There's, being in nature, the hand-eye coordination, the movement. Sports and physical activity, when I hear you say what you've just said, it makes me get very, very frustrated that we have a Victorian government that's just blown close to $400 million to not have the Commonwealth Games. And I think about that $400 million and imagine it being infused into children's and youth sports across this country. And I'm going to be honest, it makes me pretty damn angry that we have governments that are so wasteful with our money. When I look at the well-being benefits, we're dealing with a mental health crisis, literally, when it comes to our young people. Statistically, we've never had so many young people who are struggling with so many mental health challenges. And this is an undeniable lever that we can pull to satisfy and support mental health needs, and yet the government's not doing it. It's an infuriating conversation.
Yes, I'm Victorian, and I'm also from the regions where all these things were supposed to take place. So, for us, there's an interesting comment from someone from the head of commerce, Ballarat, yesterday. I'm from Ballarat, and he was just really angry about the lack of communication around that and what an issue that was. And yeah, basically the same thing. It was just a wasted opportunity. It could have totally worked, but, it was just not communicated well and coordinated well. But
the downstream effects in terms of the inspiration that kids can take from seeing the games, the money that could have been invested into children's sport and children's mental health benefiting as a result, it's really enraging. Let's go back to the good news. I want to quote you again one more time. This is the last time I'm going to do it to you, but
that's okay.
I love how you said this because it's so real, and every parent has been in this kind of situation. You said, for me, this was highlighted at a recent weekend-long swimming competition that my daughter attended. Families had travelled from across Victoria to a regional town and crammed into a space nowhere near large enough to accommodate the crowd. It was hot and stuffy with chlorine thick in the air, yet hardly anyone complained. Instead, parents helped out in any way they could. One grabbed a camera and took photos. Another took a clipboard and herded swimmers to the marshalling checkpoint, while another checked in with everyone, offering coffees and snacks. As the races were conducted, parents cheered on not only their own kids, but all the kids.
Yeah, that's it. It was really good to see, as much as as hot and stuffy as it was, because it really was. It was just really good to see. And that was the moment where I was like, I need to write about this, because, here you've got parents from all over Victoria there to support their kids and their kids' teammates. And it's quite an individual sport, swimming as well. So it could be quite easy to get insular with it. But it was the opposite. Parents were just up there offering to do something in any way they could, whether you've been a member of the club long, whether you're an official, person on a committee or not, or whether you just saw someone that needed help with something. People were just volunteering to do that. And, it was just to help this event that all of their kids were a part of run as best as it could, and for them to have a good time.
Here's to all the parents who are doing such a great job. And to you, Shona, thanks for writing such a positive and uplifting article about the great work that parents are doing and supporting their kids for their mental health, their physical health, and so on. Great to talk to you again. Really appreciate it.
It was good. Thank you.
Shona Hendley is a freelance writer for the ABC, for the Fairfax Press, and pretty much everyone else as well. And she wrote a fabulous article just recently all about sports parents, the good and the bad. Well, actually, only about the 3% who are bad.
That's right.
The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rawn from Rich Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. If you're heading out with the kids in the next few days or over the weekend so that they can get involved with sports, thanks for what you're doing. Keep being awesome and enjoy that time on the sidelines. I hope the kids love the sport. If you'd like more information about making your family happier, visit happyfamilies.com.au.